All right, so I want to work with essential forms. I'm going to create a cube today, an isometric cube, and so I'm using 3 different pencils right now. I have an H, a 2B, and a 6B. I'm going to go ahead and use a ruler on this so that I can get these parts parallel. Boom. I'm actually going to use opposite sides. Why don't I do that? That'd be cool. Now, remember in an isometric, the parts will be parallel. It's sort of the opposite of it's not in perspective, so these sides don't have to go back to a vanishing point. I'm going to just cut this off here, and notice I'm using this ruler, this transparent ruler, so I can see where my parallel lines are. By the way, I'm drawing with the H right now because I don't want to have really pronounced outlines later on. I think that if I can draw this line going up here, I'm going from this point, it's parallel, and then I'm going to draw from this point using the ruler once again to achieve parallel lines. Boom. I'm going to erase only very slightly. I don't want to rub the crap out of my paper. I don't want to damage the paper. So I'm erasing only as much as I have to. Now immediately I'm going to start with the darker side. So I'm going to start with my 6B, the softest pencil. It's going to make the darkest sides. Let's imagine that the light is coming from this area. And that's either the sunlight or it's a lovely light bulb. Perfect. So I'm going to start over here, the farthest area away from the sun. And I know that this is an odd angle. Normally we do it so it has an illusion of sitting down on a surface. Let's, for giggles, imagine that we're looking down on this from above. So you see, something I'm doing right now is I'm working lightly. I'm not choking all the way up on my pencil. I have it out here so I can't apply a lot of weight. And I'm overlapping strokes. So I'm being relatively careful not to go outside of the lines. But I'm also changing direction when I need to. In order to create nice sharp edges. Now, it is not essential that I have a single tone here. In fact, I'm going to encourage you guys to use gradations or going from dark to light, as long as I have a nice division from one side to another. So right now, I have this side is darkest. Although maybe I could have tried something a little bit different there. I'm going to go to my 2B to do a different tone. I might have been able to create a lighter tone here with my 6B, but when I use my 2B, it's naturally a little bit lighter because it's a soft pencil, but not as soft as the 6B. Remember, the higher the B number, the softer the pencil is. Now I'm going to use a gradation here also, but I'm probably going to want the lightest area of my gradation over on this side because I want to have a good contrast between the two sides. So I'll get in, once again, I have my pencil far out in front of me so I can apply a lot of pressure, and changing direction to get a nice sharp line. I'm layering So rather than applying a lot of pressure to get my marks, I'm layering colors, layering values rather. We will define the lightness or darkness of color of this as of any color as a value. So this is a darker value, that's a lighter value. When we're drawing, I think we should always try to be conscious of value and value contrast. That is, remember, contrast is the difference from one color to another. It's one way that we can tell that there is a difference between these two sides of this thing. Now I could leave this almost pure white and imagine that it's bathed in light. In fact, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to use the H simply so you guys can see how that one works. I'm leaving a good amount there again so that I'm not applying a lot of pressure, and then I'm just going to put some background. I'm not thinking of this as a shadow. I'm thinking of this simply as a color of the background, whatever is back there. It's very subtle, isn't it? So in this way, by giving a background a little bit of color, we're creating an illusion that our drawing is in an environment. So we start with shapes, which are the two-dimensional. We've delineated these. We've created shapes. But now, when I apply value to them, we're creating an illusion of depth, and thereby creating an illusion that these are forms. So we'll call these the essential forms. Now what I'm going to do, I want to make a drop shadow. Imagine the light coming from this side. I want to have a bit of a drop shadow coming this way. I haven't left a lot of space over there for us. So let's see what we can do. I'm going to do a couple of things here. I'm going to start with my darkest color directly next to this, and then I might go ahead and pick a little color out of one of these with an eraser, because I want to create an illusion of reflected light, but also use that as a tool of I want to use that as a tool so that we can create contrast and define our base there. I'm not sure if you can see it. There's a slight white outline here, and that's simply from embossing that harder pencil. That H, when I drew with it, it presses the paper down slightly, and then the color or the value does not go into that. All right, notice that I'm lightening my touch a lot in order to create a much softer edge out here. I'm barely touching at this point, but I will get darker the closer I get to my object. Notice once again that light, the very bright line, just from drawing with an H pencil. So imagine what happens with a 3H. We have to be very careful when drawing with those hard pencils. I'm going to call that a good illusion right now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an eraser to pick up a little bit of reflected light. Remember we talked about how when you set an object onto a bright surface, it can, oh my goodness, it can create, or the light will reflect back up on it. I'm actually going to use a piece of paper here to mask my drop shadow. And then I'm going to get into this and just see if I can lift a little bit of color right down here on the bottom. I don't know if I'm liking it. I probably shouldn't be using a pink eraser. This might be a little extreme. It's It's a little bit hard edge. Now I could get in here and work my eraser like a drawing tool. I can use a different pressure in order to blend this. Notice I'm constantly rotating this. As part of it becomes dirty, I'll rotate to a cleaner part where I want to pick up some more. Alright, so I've just created, I think, a better darkness over there. Alright, very rapidly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get in here and add my darker shades right here. I just lifted the highlight there. I have to take my safety equipment off.
Is this a good paper?
And
how does it feel?
And now I'm using a little bit more pressure. I'm going to blend this out. I'm going to allow it to diffuse by lightening my pressure.
Who is he talking?
Just like that. I'm talking to my phone. I'm making a video. It's going to go on those YouTubes. We're going to be famous. Hey! So I'm doing this right here. Now I just got a piece of kneaded eraser. And I'm going to use this one in the same manner I did the other thing in order to lift a little bit of reflected light right here. But this one I'm going to press directly down. Oh yeah. And this way I'm just really dabbing it. And so we don't damage the paper. Voila. Brilliant.